Sam and Jack from City Come Down. Welcome to Australian Musician.
Thanks.
Thanks for having us.
You've got a new album, Echoes in Blue, coming out in early April.
Yep.
Was there a conversation before you started this album about the kind of album you wanted to make?
I think we just started writing songs, and we were quite conscious of kind of progressing where the last album was and opening up sort of new doors, I guess. But we weren't setting out to do a certain type of, like, all the songs should sort of be about this or have this kind of flavour to them. But when it came to producing it, we had a far clearer idea of what we wanted to do. So that was a conversation more in the production aspect of the record rather than the songwriting aspect of the record.
I think we started writing probably only 2 or 3 weeks after we released.
Yeah, it was very early.
Released A Restless House. So the writing style probably didn't even have time to mature that much from there. It definitely was looking back, as Jack's saying, sort of on what we had written over the last, maybe sort of 18 months or something, and then in the way that we approached it in production, sound design, what we decided we were going to keep from the songs we'd written and get rid of. So I guess it was sort of maybe a bit more of a looking back process, and changing the way we produced and chose what we were going to keep and get rid of.
Were there mental notes or lessons learned from the last album that you took into this one?
Yeah, lots more in the way we structured the recording process. So the last record we did in 2 10-day hits. It was pretty much everything was recorded and you live with it. Whereas this time we staggered everything, so we had a lot of breaks between sessions. So the first session was 10 days where we did drums, a fair chunk of the guitars and bass, and then we took, I think it was about 3 weeks off, came back and started doing the synths, which took us another 5 days, and then broke up all the vocal sessions over probably a series of 2 or 3 months. On the last record, I sort of felt like I needed more time to listen back to the performance and assess what needed to change, because when you're playing something live in a room, it can feel a certain way, but then when you're producing it, it can be... I guess you just need to be a bit more precise with things, and so having that time to deliberate was really helpful. Although it made it feel like we were recording the record for 9 months. So,
sometimes when your voice would just sound a certain way on a certain day, and you're just like, oh, we should do takes of this song. Yeah. And they were often the ones where they were, made a lot of a difference in terms of the performance.
Yeah. Yeah.
The opening line to the album is it turned to shit on April 18. Pretty bleak opening to an album.
It is.
Was that intentional to stick that track there?
Yeah, well, I think we decided to open with Joan I'm Disappearing more because of its musicality rather than its lyrical, the lyrical point. But I guess in saying that, it's sort of, the record's about, sort of very generally about trying to grapple with dealing with a lot of responsibility in your life, and not necessarily just my life, but it's, everyone has their own distinct challenges, and I feel like a lot of the songs lyrically that I love are really able to kind of capture a scene on a pinhead. It's kind of, and I felt like that was a real way to set the scene for that song. And so there wasn't too much thought about that being the opening lyric, but it worked musically, and I think for the song it works really well. It kind of sets the scene of what the song is going to be about. And
then track 5 is actually a track called April 18, which is a 34-second piano piece. What's the significance of having that in there?
The reason I thought it would be a good idea to name that April 18 is just to kind of tie across that piece. Has this kind of it's slightly sad, but it's also,
It's like a palate cleanser a bit as well.
yeah, it has a kind of release to it where it sort of feels like something's been said and done without, there's obviously no lyrics or words there, but yeah, just kind of like tie that sort of feeling that I felt kind of needed to come out of Joan, that, after this sort of, it's quite sort of an intense and sad song, that there is always, sort of light after darkness, and yeah, not that April 18 is necessarily sort of a very bright song, but it has a kind of a bittersweet happiness to it.
Echoes in Blue is the final track on the album. Why is that the title track?
There's a lyric in that song which is Echoes in the Blue, and I just felt like it captured sort of a mood that floated across the whole record. I got rid of the because it just didn't sort of sound as good for an album title, but yeah.
You had Malcolm producing again. Last time I spoke to you, Sam, you were saying he was a bit of a moderator, a bit of a decision maker, as well as being, producer sonically. He played the similar sort of role.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he even developed sometimes into more of a ideas man as well, so sometimes, but definitely, helping us sort of being the fifth member as such to resolve ties and just sort of tell people, no, that's a bad idea, let's not waste time going down that rabbit hole. And everyone really respects him as well, so when he has something to say, everyone really listens, and can be a very easy short circuit to things, so it helps being efficient, I think.
The synth that was the core of the last album was the Juno 60. Was that the case with this one?
Definitely played a big role. I think the studio electronics code as well features a lot on things like Joan and the end of Echoes in Blue. Those two probably played bigger roles. I think Juno probably played less of a role compared to
I don't know.
It's hard to tell. It's sort of look back and we used this time what was that organ?
Oh, the Selena.
Selena, yeah.
Yeah.
We used sort of a really old Selena that we got off one of our friends as well. Sort of string sounding synth that sort of, I guess, played some function that the Juno would have last time. Sort of these paddy parts.
There's a fair bit of VST Juno, actually, using plugins that do some of the arpeggios that the start of Joan I'm Disappearing is the VST Juno. And what else is April 18, start of Decision Fatigue. Yeah, so it kind of pops up a fair bit. What else? There's some VSTs on Echoes in Blue as well, but I can't remember what they are. But
were you running keys through pedals again, like last time?
Yeah, running through some Strymon El Capistan things sometimes. I had a lot of like natural fuzz from the studio electronics code, so we pushed the volume on that quite high, and there's an actual fuzz setting on it, but we didn't use that too much, sort of a bit too extreme. But there seems to be a lot of sort of not quite leady parts, but they're sort of, I guess, almost creating pads that are quite a bit distorted in there as well.
Yeah. Any issues in regard to replicating these songs live?
There will be, I'm sure.
I'm sure that we're
Echoes
still
in Blue will be really hard to do live. But, we're yet to kind of get to that. That'll be this weekend.
The interesting will be switching over. We've decided we're not going to be touring with the code anymore. And we've switched that over for an Oberheim 6 by Dave Smith. So it's trying to get that to push in the same way. Will be interesting to see if we can do it, but I think that synth has a lot of other, the Oberheim 6 has a lot of other sounds as well, different directions.
Yeah. It seems to me this album, or the last album, was more focused on the keyboard synth sounds, and this is more of an overall band sounding album.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's the way it was mixed.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. But I guess being just a bit more selective and careful about which instruments we use for what things. So guitar's probably doing a lot more arpeggio stuff that we might have thought about doing on. A lot more layering of different guitars as well, I think. And
yeah, there's also, I guess, the songwriting, say on like tracks like Pride and Distraction, where it is very much kind of, I guess going back to that sort of post-punk mood, where I guess the guitars are allowed to be a bit more in your face. Whereas on the last record they were very sort of, they'd sit in the background and fill things out. So yeah, here they're kind of taking a more forward role and aren't as reverbed and washed out. Yeah.
I imagine the song Blood is going to go off on stage live. That'll be fun one to play.
Yeah, it has been really fun.
It's weird. When we were playing the Laneway tour recently, and I think almost every city when we played Blood had this like mosh pit. What do you call it? Like a snake pit or whatever it is, where people are like running around in a circle just for that one song. It's sort of, I don't know, more of a like violent Soho thing or something, but for that one song we'd have that appearing, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, it's never really been our thing, but you know, people are going to do what they're going to do.
The album's out and then you go to Europe and the UK. How's that been going? You've been developing a bit of an audience over there?
Yeah, every time we go back we're playing to more people, which is great. I mean, I guess like here, you just got to keep going back and playing shows and building your audience. We've never really been one of those bands that's kind of, I don't know, had some sort of internet sensation where we kind of will draw a big audience off the back of a kind of moment. It's just been chipping away. So I hope, I mean, we've been playing together for maybe 6 or 7 years before we started playing bigger shows here. So hopefully it doesn't take that long, because we definitely can't afford it. But yeah, we've had like a lot of support, both from our label in Australia and just through funding programs run by the state government, which is really helpful. Just, you can't get over there without that kind of support.
So it's a European UK tour, then an Australian tour.
Yep.
Then what happens for the rest of the year?
Sleep. Yeah.
Sleep.
Just sleep. Yeah.
Oh, you have to start writing again. Knowing our label, they'd be like, "How's the third album?"
Yeah.
I think when we get back from Australian tour, probably give ourselves 1 or 2 weeks off without seeing each other, and then it'll probably be, what are you working on? What are you writing? And
yeah.
It's heading towards the end of the year. Hopefully some more festivals and things like that.
Yeah.
So the album Echoes in Blue is out early April. Let's have a look at the cover.
Great cover.
Yeah, it is.
I didn't take that photo.
But we weren't thinking you did, no worry.
No, I think some people might have thought, did you take that? No way. But I didn't. That was, anyway, I can tell you who did it, but it's a secret. You can't tell the camera.
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.